Good afternoon and a warm welcome to everyone joining us for our live Q&A today. If you've applied or intend to apply for a full-time course with us for the 2022-23 academic session, we hope this Q&A event will address some of the queries you may have about applications and funding. My name's Louise and I work in the Marketing and Communications team here at NESCol. Today I'm joined by some of my colleagues from the Student Advice and Support team who will be available to answer your course application and funding questions. We have Katie Gilbert, our Student Admissions and Funding Manager, and Julie Davison, our Student Information Officer. We're also grateful to be joined by Michael Scott from the Student Awards Agency for Scotland, or SAS as it's known for short, who will be providing information and answering queries on funding if you've applied or plan to apply for an advanced course. To kick off the session, we're going to go through some of the most common questions we receive about applications and funding here at NESCol. Our Q&A panel is also available anytime for you to ask your specific questions in. But because funding is very much dictated by your personal circumstances, it might be that we answer your query privately rather than sharing it within this session. The session will be recorded and uploaded to our website in the coming weeks, so you can refer back to it at your leisure. Please remember that our student advice team are available from Monday to Friday to deal with your queries. So if something comes up after today's session, please don't hesitate to get in touch. And we've popped the email contact addresses in the announcement sections there that you can see. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to talk about applications first. So applications for our full-time courses opened in December last year, and they'll stay open right through until the beginning of the new academic session in August, September time. However, we do recommend applying early. Many of our courses fill up really quickly, and for some courses, waiting lists are in operation. You can apply online or using a paper application form, but doing it through our website is recommended. When applying online, please make sure to register with an email address that you can easily access. So if you're still at school, probably not a good idea to use your school email address because you might lose access to that when you finish school in June. So remember and check your inbox regularly. It's a good idea to add inquiry@nescol.ac.uk to your contacts, so the emails from us don't go to your junk or spam folder, which can sometimes happen. So our first question is a common one that we hear at events and from schools all the time. What course will I apply for? I'm not sure what I want to study. What advice can you give them, Julie?
Hello. Yes, so really the best starting point is to think about the type of career job that you'd like to work in. Also consider your strengths in terms of subjects previously studied and of course what you enjoy and you're interested in. Information on course content, units studied, entry requirements, the progression opportunities are all detailed on our website within the course information. If you're still at school, you may want to chat things through with a guidance or careers advisor. And for adult returners, Skills Development Scotland can provide advice. You can make an appointment with them and go in and discuss different options. We also offer pre-entry guidance appointments where we can arrange for a time for you to chat through your options with one of the team, and this could help you decide which course is right for you. You can book one of these via the website or by contacting our Student Advice Centre via email. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Julie. So what do I need to complete a full-time application? I'm going to go to you for this one, Katie.
Thanks, Louise. So first of all, you just need to make sure that you take your time to complete the application as fully as possible. So the more information you can provide, the better, and this will help us to process your application quickly. You will be asked questions about your nationality and where you have lived to determine your eligibility for course fees and funding, as well as your current address and contact information, and also some equal opportunities questions. If you have any exam certificates to hand when completing your application, it is helpful because when applying online, you can upload photos of these at the same time. If you haven't set your exams yet, just complete your expected grades. The application also includes the section, Tell us your story so far. So this is an open field for you in your own words to tell us a bit about yourself. Think about telling us why you want to study this course what employment or work experience you may have had, any hobbies that you have or interests or achievements that may be relevant, and what you would like to do after you've completed the course. Tell us your story so far is not a mandatory section, but completing it will speed up the processing of your application. You can also prepare something in advance and then just simply cut and paste it into the section in the online application. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Katie. Another question that we're asked a lot is whether people can apply for more than one course at a time. Unfortunately, you can't. You can only have one live application with us for the full-time course. However, if you do wish to change the course that you've applied for, it's no problem. You can just contact us at studentadvice@nescol.ac.uk and we can easily arrange to have your application transferred over. Okay, moving on. How long does it take for an application to be processed? Katie, we're back to you for this one, please.
So if you apply online, you should receive an acknowledgement email straight away, but please check your junk mailbox because sometimes the email will go into that mailbox instead of your inbox. For paper applications, we aim to acknowledge by post within 10 days. For application will be reviewed by our admission and curriculum teams, and in some cases, we may have to ask you for additional information, and for certain courses, you may be asked to attend an interview, which are mostly online for this session. But for other courses, you may receive an offer straight away. We aim to process all applications and, where successful, make an offer within 6 weeks from the date you applied. It is important to remember that there is a course and level to suit everyone at NESCol. So if you're not successful for one course, there is usually always another option we can offer. You can view the status of your application at any time by logging on to the My Application portal on our website.
Thanks for that, Katie. So once someone has actually applied for their course and got their application in, what's the process after that, Julie?
Okay, so you would either receive a conditional or a full offer. A conditional offer means that you have certain conditions that need to be met before the course starts. For example, it might be achieving certain qualifications or exam results. A full offer means you have a place on the course with no conditions to be met. Once you've received an offer from us, you should accept it as soon as possible by responding to the email or the letter that's sent out to you, or by logging into the My Application portal on our website. There's a link there that you click on through the email, and you can then accept or reject your offer. You should still continue to check your emails regularly, and we will send you any updates or further information about starting your course. Will get sent out by email before the course start date in August. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Julie. Hopefully that's covered some of the common queries that people have about applying for their full-time course with us here at NESCol. But again, if you have got anything you can think of, just pop your questions in the Q&A panel that you can see on screen and we'll do our best to answer your queries. So we're now going to move on to talk about funding. If you're an applicant for a full-time course at NESCol, it's important to note that you must have funding in place to cover your course fees. So if you're offered a place on a non-advanced course, so that's any course that's not an HNC or HND, you apply directly through NESCol for your course funding and any financial assistance. If you've applied for a place on an advanced course, which is an HNC or an HND, you apply to the Student Awards Agency for Scotland for your funding and financial assistance. So we're now going to go through some of the most common questions we're asked in relation to funding. The first one is Katie's going to give us an answer on non-advanced, and then we're going to go over to Michael to get some information on advanced funding. So how do I apply for my fees and funding? Katie, can you give us some information on non-advanced, please?
Okay, so once you've applied for a non-advanced course, so as Louisa said, that's a course that's not a HNC or a HND, you will be sent an email with a link to the funding application. This is sent out when you have been given either a conditional offer or a full offer. You can apply for maintenance, travel, materials and EMA, and we will start sending out the links for these applications in May. But it's an idea to keep an eye on social media, and if you're a continuing student on my NESCol, as you will see some announcements there, just in case the link's been sent to your junk mailbox. As Louisa said, it's important that you apply for funding as soon as possible so that we can ensure it's in place for you when you start your course in August. Please note that any award made can be changed at any time and is subject to the availability of funds. And another note is that students under 22 will now be expected to apply for their free travel card. And you can do this by looking at the transport.gov.scot website, but we'll put some information up on that later on. But you need to apply for that and then you'll just get free travel. And I'll now pass over to Michael.
Hi there. Yeah, so if you've applied for an HNC or an HND, then you need to apply to us at the Student Awards Agency Scotland, or SAS as we're probably more commonly known. Your application form will all be online and they will be available from the 5th of April. That is our go live date. And you'll be able to apply there for your tuition fees, any bursary or loan that you may be entitled to. There's also a way on the form that you can apply for care experience bursaries or loan parent grants as well. You don't need to wait until you've been given an offer to apply to SAS. And as I said, the applications will be opening from the 5th of April and you go directly to the SAS website, so www.sas.gov.uk. You can submit obviously any point after that point. We would encourage you to apply before the 30th of June. That is what we call guarantee date here at SAS, and that just ensures that if you get us an application form completed by that date, we will ensure that your funding is in place for your first day of term. If you apply at the moment and you're not entirely certain of where you're going to go, or you have a different offer come exam time, you can always log back into your account and successfully change your application to suit how you need, or cancel the whole thing if you wish. The funding will be released once you've been enrolled on your course as well, so there might be a process with your institution where you have to register your attendance. You will be sent an awards notice which will confirm all your funding from ourselves, and this will go directly to your SAS account as well. Thank you.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Thanks for that answer there, Michael. Great. So when someone goes to apply for their funding, are there any supporting documents that they need to have handy before they begin the process, Julie?
Yes, there will be documents that we will ask for. The types of documents will depend on your circumstances and also the funding that you're applying for. They may include P60, tax credit award letters, universal credits, a self-employed tax calculation, council tax bills, and you may be asked to provide these when you do the online form, but if you don't have them to hand while you're completing that, you can upload them after you've submitted the application. Obviously, what you're asked to provide will depend on your circumstances. So if you would like more clarification on the documents you might be asked for based on your specific circumstances, then certainly email student funding. So that's studentfunding@nescol.ac.uk, and we can discuss it with you and give you some idea of the type of documents you might be asked for. It's important to make sure that you upload exactly what we've asked for. Otherwise, we will need to come back and request the correct documents, and this could result in a delay in your funding being assessed and any payments that you may be due. So please ensure your application is submitted within 6 weeks of your course start date, as it can't be backdated after that 6 weeks. I'll now hand over to Michael and he'll give you some information on HE level.
Very similar to what Julie's already run through. We will be asking for very similar documents. So if you are looking for a bursary or a student loan and your family income is below £34,000 per year, we would be asking for P60s, self-employment information, or perhaps a self-assessment as well. If your partner or spouse that you happen to live with earns under £34,000, then again, similar documents will be expected of you to confirm your entitlements to bursaries and student loans. All this information is laid out on the application form itself. There is a help text all the way through our form, which will keep you up to date with what documents you need to send. Another area that we may ask for further information is if you are perhaps an EU student or a non-UK national. It may be that you're asked to provide information to prove that you've applied for settled status, and the best way to perhaps do that would be to send us any relevant Home Office documentation you have, alongside any relevant pages of your passports or residency permit cards that you might have. So photocopy those, you can send them in. Our mailroom is back open now. We also have the SAS account, which you'll all be using to complete your application form, and you can use our document upload service, which you'll find in there, and that's probably the fastest way to get information into the agency.
Excellent, thank you for that, Michael and Julie. The next question is for you again, Michael. For people who may have attended college or university in the past, will they be eligible for funding again?
Yep, this is a very common question that we get. So, you know, it's one that's very difficult to give a straight answer sometimes, because we do have to consider what your previous study is. But if you have previously undertaken any courses, it can affect your eligibility for funding. The rules do vary. We would need to see your application first and foremost before we can give a concrete answer, of course, but your previous qualifications will be taken into consideration. What you may find is if you're coming back to study something that you've already gained a qualification in, we would certainly offer you an access to a student loan for your living costs, but it may be that your tuition fees are not paid as you've already gained that qualification. This area is probably the most complex that we deal with, so it really can be a case-by-case scenario as well.
Thank you for that, Michael. Yeah, as we spoke about earlier, funding can be something that's very specific and individual, so it's best to get in touch with, you know, either ourselves or SAS to discuss your own, you know, personal circumstances. Next question, Julie, is can I apply for a bursary award and an EMA award?
Okay. So if you are 18 or over when you start your course and you're studying at SEQF level 6 or below, you can apply for a bursary award. So this would include, or could include, maintenance, travel if you live over 2 miles from the college, and materials, and it would be means tested. Students who are under 18 are eligible to apply for travel and materials. This is non-means tested, and an EMA award, which would be means tested against your parents' income. Again, just to mention, as Katie did before, a note on the travel. If you're under 22 next year, we won't award any travel costs. You will need to apply to for the travel card, which is, you'd be eligible if you're under 22, and you can do that at www.transport.gov.scot. And I really would advise that you apply for that as soon as possible, because that's in force now, and it's good to get it sorted nice and early. Thank you.
You're muted, Louise.
Sorry, folks. The dreaded mute again. We're back to advanced, so we're back to Michael again. If you've applied for an HNC or HND, can you apply for a student loan?
Okay, so yeah, student loans will be available for those students that are applying for an HNC and HND. We offer student loan for living costs to all students right through higher education. So HNC being your starting point, right up through to your honours year of your degree, you can apply for a student loan in every year of attendance. Like I said on the previous question there, one thing that is a constant is your eligibility for a student loan. So even in scenarios where you may not have your tuition fees paid, you can still apply for a student loan to assist you with your living costs as you progress through higher education.
Thanks for that, Michael. Julie, we're back to you again and talking about bursary awards. Can someone receive a bursary award if they're receiving benefits?
Okay, so this is quite complex again. However, you would normally only be eligible for travel and a materials award if you were in receipt of benefits. Students that are receiving universal credit may be eligible for a universal credit maintenance allowance. That's if they can continue to receive universal credit whilst attending college. This is not relevant to everyone, so it is something that we would encourage you to check with us again, depending on your individual circumstances. And of course, you should always check with relevant benefits agency to make sure that any funding received from the college doesn't affect your benefits. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Katie, for those students who don't live with their parents, do they still have to provide their income?
Hi, yeah, it really depends on the student's individual circumstances, but we are required to ask for parental income, even if a student doesn't live with them but is under the age of 25. We can assess you as self-supporting, but you need to have been able to show that you have 3 years, and that cannot include any periods of education. So again, it's quite tricky to give a sort of straight answer now, but I would recommend that you contact the student funding team on the email address that's been given, so we can have a chat about the student's individual circumstances. Sometimes it can be quite tricky, so if students are estranged from the parents, but it is better if we can speak to them, the students individually, just so that we can get the right information across. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Another similar question now on being self-supporting. Can you be assessed as self-supporting if you live with your partner? And that's back to you, Julie.
Okay, so if you're under 25 and you live with a partner, you can be assessed as an independent student. You would have to provide official documents and joint names as proof that you're in an established relationship. So this could be council tax bill, a joint lease agreement, or a utility bill in joint names.
Thank you, Julie. So on to talking about deadlines again. Is there deadlines for funding applications? Is a common query that we're asked. And for non-advanced, we would recommend that applicants apply before the October holidays. So that would be October this year, 2022, from your course beginning. But you should always try and apply as soon as you can so that your funding's in place prior to the start of your course. I'm now going to pass over to Michael to get some information for advanced courses.
Yeah, perfect. Just before I start though, just to go back, just to kind of reiterate what was said previously there about the need for establishing if you're independent or not, the same rules apply for SAS. So obviously we follow the same structure in place there, that if you are independent or you have a child, you know you're married before the age of 25, you wouldn't be required to send us parental information at that stage. So our rules are exactly the same as you guys operate at NESCol. So I just thought I'd add that as well. But certainly in terms of deadlines for support, We really have 3 key dates throughout each academic session, the first one being the 5th of April of this year when we will go live, like I mentioned previously. The next important one would be the 30th of June. Each year, that is what we call guarantee date, and as I explained previously, that is when you should want to try and perhaps trick yourself into thinking is your deadline, because it gives us the best possible chance of getting the support ready for course start date. And the official deadline each year for applying is the 31st of March. So we do give a student a full academic year to get a form with us. We would never encourage anybody to wait that long. Of course, it doesn't help anybody in the long run. But yeah, those are the 3 important dates: 5th of April, 30th of June, and then 31st of March the following year.
Thank you for that, Michael. In terms of course applications tying in with your funding, do I need to wait until I'm offered a place before I apply for funding? And how long does it take for a funding application to be processed? So I'm going to go to Julie first for the answer on non-advanced.
Okay, yes, so for anyone who's offered a place in a non-advanced course, you will be sent an email advising that you should apply for your funding, and this is only sent after you've been given either a conditional or a full offer. We expect the emails for those applying for non-advanced courses to start being sent out from May this year. In terms of how long it takes for an application to be processed, each application is different, so it's not really possible to give a definite answer. But if you submit all the correct evidence, we'd normally expect your bursary to be in place within 6 weeks of submitting your application. So that's for non-advanced. I'll hand over now to Michael, who can give the information for advanced courses. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, so there's no requirement to wait for an offer when it comes to applying to SAS for your HNC or HND. You will be able to do so from the 5th of April onwards when we open. And just to reiterate what I said earlier, if you submit us an application form and you change your mind, your exam results change it for you perhaps, then it's very easy to make amendments to your SAS application, because everything that you send us is controlled through your SAS account, so you can easily cancel or amend whenever you see fit.
Thanks for that, Michael and Julie. What happens if my funding isn't in place for me starting my course? Julie, I'm going to go back to you for this one, please.
Okay, so if your funding isn't in place for the start of your course, you can contact the Student Advice Centre and ask about an emergency payment to help you while your bursary is being assessed. If you're on a non-advanced FE course and are awarded bursary, we would deduct the emergency payment from your award once that was completed. If you're not eligible for a bursary, then you would need to repay that emergency payment back to us. Also, if you are doing an HNC, HND course, you would need to make the emergency payment back to us once your SAS funding or student loan was in place.
Thanks for that, Julie. Talking again about emergency payments there, is there support available for students who go through financial hardship while studying? Katie, could you give us some info on that one, please?
Hi, so the college receives funds from the Scottish Funding Council as well as SAS for help with additional support for things like rent. It's known as discretionary funds. So if you're on a FE course or a HNC, HND, it's actually the college that you would apply for discretionary. We also have childcare available for both non-advanced and advanced courses. The best way to see if you would be eligible for these would to be speak to any of the team in any of the student advice centres across all 3 campuses. We can give you some brief information, and then if we think that you're eligible, we will either release the link or actually get somebody from student funding to contact you directly just to get a bit more information. There can be some implications if you're in receipt of certain benefits for regular payments from discretionary. So for example, if you are in receipt of universal credit, if we pay you a regular payment each month for your rent, they will see this as income and reduce your universal credit claim. So it's important that you give us as much information as possible, because the last thing that the college would want is for you to be in financial hardship whilst you're on your course. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. So we're now on to our final question from the preset questions that we had through, and that is, I'm from an EU country, will I need to pay fees? And Julie, we're going to go to you for that one, please.
Okay, so if you have pre-settled or settled status, then it's unlikely that you will need to pay course fees. However, if you were not living in Scotland before the 31st of December 2020, but you have since applied to the EU settlement scheme, then it would depend on the reason and the outcome of your application. Again, this is something that can be quite complex, so you can certainly contact the Student Advice Centre for advice relating to your specific circumstances. Thank you.
Thanks for that. That's been really interesting, and I hope everyone has got some good information out of that. Again, if there's anything you want to ask, pop your questions into the Q&A panel at the side, or you can contact us after the session today. We've had one query through about starting a course after Christmas. We do have courses that begin in January and February each year for those who are not quite old enough to leave school in the summer term, so you can join us at the beginning of the new year. We've got quite a range of courses across our curriculum areas. I think that's it for today. I don't think we've got any other queries that have come through. If there's anything else that you can think of, please do not hesitate to get in touch. And as we said earlier, the session has been recorded, so we'll make sure that it's available on the NESCol website in the next few days for you to look at your leisure. Thanks, everyone.